Welcome back to the office, Jay Bearhat. How are you feeling?
I mean, a little like afraid, but that's nothing new, so we don't have to get into that. I
Mm-hmm.
so I guess more guilty.
Mm. Well, have you been? Really, firstly, have you been taking the medications that I prescribed to you? Have you been? Yeah.
Oh, I don't. I decided I don't take medications now. It's kind of
Oh.
like I'm kind of doing like a Christian Science thing, but it's only for things that would prevent me from taking a massive amount of hallucinogens
Uh-huh.
or street drugs.
Sure.
So, like, I'm still taking, like, vitamin D, but I'm not taking, like, what was it? Like, Zoloft, Praxil, uh, Flingamore,
Uh.
um, antibiotic, uh,
Those are good to take usually. Uh.
fish antibiotics. I'm off. I'm swearing it all off. I'm going au naturel.
All right. You're going clean. You're going.
MDMA acid flipping. I'm
Yeah.
only doing drugs that the CIA developed.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. So you're going kind of on a Scientologist quest, a little bent here. Uh.
Yes.
All right, I can respect it. I can respect it. We'll loop back around to that another time. Uh, but what's got you on that mode lately?
I mean, I just feel like it's really difficult lately for me to engage with art.
Hmm.
It's kind of a what people always talk about, like medication kind of makes you feel like a zombie. And I was really feeling kind of like anhedonistic, I think is what WebMD tells me that is.
Ah.
Um and I don't know, I saw this movie recently, Beau is Afraid, and I just realized walking out of it, I don't know what I feel about that movie.
Hmm. I
Like,
see.
I laughed when there was a funny joke. I did the correct response,
Yeah.
ha ha he he, point at the screen. Um, but I like can't did I like that movie? And like my
Hmm.
thing is being able to tell people that a movie's good actually or bad actually. But I can't even say, well, it's just mid. Is it just mid? Could it just be that it's just mid, but it's a lot of mid at once? Is it like smoking a bunch of mids?
Smoking all of the mid in the world so that there's only hydro left in the known universe. Yeah, I don't know. I I suppose I'm in kind of a similar place to you. Or rather, it's complicated. How much of your sort of perception about this movie, especially going in, was kind of colored by the sort of perceptions around its director Ari Aster? Because I think it's fair to say that that could, the discussion around his oeuvre is maybe tipping the scales in one direction or another, generally speaking.
Well, and so I will say part of the problem is that I feel like we live in too advertising works too well. And that's the thing people don't understand.
True.
So first the trailer dropped and it looked stupid, but I was like, okay, I know this is a bullshit trailer. A24 does this all the time when their movies are kind of quirky. Hereditary had a misleading trailer. The Favorite had a god awful trailer that made it look like some fucking 1999 she's all that shit.
Mm.
Um so I was like, I feel like they probably just took the scenes that look the most like you could be in a quirky film and put them together, and that was true. But then there was also a lot of like initial really negative pushback on the film, and like a lot of people were like, God, this movie does not need to be 3 hours long. It's a career killer. This movie just wastes the fucking audience's time. It's a career killer. This movie is just his neuroticism on screen. It's a career killer. And I was like, a lot of people are saying career killer, a term that I haven't heard since The Simpsons was good. Because who fucking talks about movies like, oh, this one's a career killer anymore? Like,
Yeah.
okay, some guy at the A24 marketing film came up with that, because what better way to get a bunch of people who would like an Ari Aster film to go see the new Ari Aster film that they're feeling iffy on than by telling them that it's really, really bad and that people who go to the Alamo Drafthouse hated it.
Yeah, well, the impression that I get is that kind of Ari Aster, like anybody in the middle of a sort of, social media and advertising firestorm, who kind of has a hold on some, small part of the culture. Like anybody who is in that position, has really uncomplicated feelings about it, feels fine about it, seems to feel really normal about it. I don't know. There's always some annoying discussion happening with something that gets to this kind of stratosphere.
Oh, right. But I mean, and this is related to the anxiety and paranoia. I was like, how much of this is fake? Because like, I've seen this trick before.
Sure.
People were like, House of Jack is actually really good because people at Cannes hated it. I know how this works. You absolutely can advertise a film by convincing people that like Funko Pop owners hate it. Like that works. It works on me. But it like works well enough that it's like I was like, okay, this isn't a career killer. This might be good. This might be bad. But like they don't make career killers anymore. What are you talking about? The only way to be a career killer is if there's like a scene halfway through where like it just cuts to just like the Mel Gibson like drunk pullover footage, but it's Ari Aster doing it like frame for frame. Like
sure.
you gotta like do something pretty heinous in your movie to get that. The girl who did A Girl Walks Home at Night did that movie that was like apparently like really racist, and she still got to make another film. There's career killers don't exist.
Yeah.
I went in it. That's part of the problem. Is like I went in it even unsure of how I would feel about it, because I like Ari Aster's movies. I love Hereditary. I love Midsummer. I like talking about them. I think that they're really. I think Hereditary is very tight and compact. I think it gets in and gets out. I think Midsummer is a lot more dense, a lot more interesting, a lot of stuff to pull out of it, but it also feels like kind of like an acid moment, like you're coming up on acid for most of the movie, which works with the film. I think he is somebody who is a talented filmmaker, but also could just as easily have that sort of like cockiness of bringing in new like bringing to mainstream film approaches to film that like weren't really common yet. And you can already see that with like the fucking explosion of like trauma horror, or of like girl boss trauma horror, stuff that takes the wrong lessons from his things and recreates them and makes everyone sick of them. And so there's a lot of annoying discourse about his stuff where people either I think go way too hard in defending it or way too hard in performatively hating it as well. So I went into this, I feel like, with very open expectations of a wide range of possibilities. I was leaning towards like I could see this being like a misfire of a film.
Sure.
But I walked away just being like, I don't know. There's things I like. There's things I didn't like. I think maybe you're a little too early in your career to be doing the like self-critique of your own career thing.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to bring up. It's very self-referential.
The entire back act of it feeling like a Hereditary parody almost. A really good one, a really funny one.
Well, my feeling from having watched it twice is that like I kind of think that it's interesting. I'm really interested in this movie as like a career step. It's like, I don't want to say it feels metatextual. It kind of doesn't, but it kind of does, because the segment of like the Nathan Lane family is like this almost like absurdist parody of Hereditary and what happens in Hereditary, in the same way that the Woods segment with that commune feels like an absurdist parody of Midsummer. So it's kind of like progressing through. It's weird calling this a career killer or having it be called a career killer because it's more than anything kind of a return to form. It's in fact like an expansion of a short film he made in 2011 called BEAU, in
I
which
got really excited. I thought you were going to say it was an expansion of Dick Fart.
It's an expansion of Tino's Dick Farts. It's in the Tino's Dick Farts extended universe. That's the thing that you have to fucking understand about BEAU is Afraid, is that, like, this is Ari Aster's voice. Like, he is a goofball, and, like, oh, his movies are so fucked up. They're so fucking crazy. But, like, you actually go back and watch these movies, and, like, there's elements of humor to both Hereditary and Midsommar that are, like, major. They're, like, the backbone of the movie. Midsommar is funny as fuck. So this is, it's like a guy who grew up on, like, YouTube sketch comedy and shit like that, making basically a 3-hour Tim and Eric's Bedtime Stories episode, which I'm really into. I'm really into that idea, and especially into the specific ways he kind of talks about himself and kind of pokes fun at his own, pokes fun at his own neuroses, because there's this, whole parasocial meme, like, is Ari Aster okay? And this film is just him being like, guys, it's not that serious. Yeah. These neuroses are, like, a source of humor for me, as well as being, whatever they are. I don't know. That's art, I guess.
You're right in that, like, it makes sense to return to a 2011 short film he made for a movie that is kind of this amalgamation of his more well-known films and his short form films.
Right.
And I think I like that. I just don't know if I still know. I don't know if it quite works. I feel like what will matter is what comes after it.
Uh-huh.
Because this feels like the turning point. This feels like it could be his Synecdoche, New York.
Mm.
And that either he purges out everything and starts working on maybe more digested stuff.
Sure, yeah.
But or he makes I'm thinking of Ending Things, a fucking movie that fucking sucks shit.
Yeah, that's very, very true. I don't know. This movie's definitely referential toward both Synecdoche, New York, and I would also say A Serious Man. And this movie's
does have A Serious Man vibes. Yeah,
right. This movie is better than Synecdoche, New York, because it doesn't take itself seriously, but it's worse than A Serious Man because it doesn't take itself seriously enough.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's kind of like, I guess the problem is that there's, like, so much stuff that feels, for every moment that I'm like, that's fucking, like, brilliant, usually comedy related. There's a lot of stuff that I'm like, the animated sequence, like, almost works. I think a big problem is that I honestly just think the animation style they chose just looks bad. I think it looks.
I've heard that from you and one other person, which is, I didn't think it looked that bad, but it is a little bit too, like, oh, this is like a commercial that I would see during a Twitch stream.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. I think part of the problem with that sequence is that the movie feels like it wants to lull you into thinking that this is the new story of the film, but the entire time it's going on, I was like, okay, so when is it going to go back to, like, the movie?
It goes on for a really long time. I didn't get the impression that they were trying to pull the wool over your eyes that much, but it's, like, sitting there being like, okay, yeah, I know exactly where this is going. It's not real, and it's blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Holy fuck, how much longer is this?
Yeah. This is I like the punchline of it, where it's like, Dad, wait, how could you have had us then? And that's what breaks him out of the art, which, okay, great double punchline of both his imagination, his personal imagination being so limited that, like, the way he talks in it is like, and then you have sex and have 3 children because you came in your wife. Very funny. The punchline of, like, him being so uncreative that he, like, doesn't realize that he fucked up his story and included something in it that doesn't make any sense, which is that he can't have a condition where if he comes, he dies and
Right.
have 3 children, and that's what takes him out of the art that he was making, is like realizing that he kind of like wrote himself into a corner. Very like, I see what you did there, Ari.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third punchline of that, which is him snapping into focus and looking out at the play, and it not only being nothing at all like what he imagined, but it immediately being clear that it is the most obnoxious fucking like bullshit. Just the most, oh, these are a bunch of guys who live in the woods, who like put out a folk punk compilation every 3 years, and this is like what they fucking spend their days doing, is just writing the most annoying mythology.
Yeah, it's a very long movie. I gotta give that to people. It's these segments are like you're there's like a lot asked of you, and then there's like not a lot given in terms of like narrative heft and weight. It's kind of like video game putty characters, you know.
Yeah, each segment of the film just really doesn't, it it feels like it's going for an After Hours kind of thing.
Yeah, that's another huge reference point for sure.
But it doesn't have the same confidence of flow as
Mm.
After Hours. Because if after something like After Hours, it feels like when you try to describe any scene that it's like, oh, that must have taken a lot to get to, but like the logic of the film works in a way where it just kind of goes from one to the other. Tokyo Godfathers is the same way, where it's
Oh,
like
sure.
the amount of shit that happens in that film is like insane, but it's like each event logically follows the next, or
Yeah.
is logically preceded by the previous. But like when you zoom out and look at it all together, you're like, that's an insane set of things to have happened like all at once.
Yeah.
And this one, each sequence feels very like broken off
Mm-hmm.
in a way that they all kind of feel like distinct movies, which works, especially with the referential metatextual stuff, but doesn't work with regards to like feeling cohesive, which I think is maybe the main reason why I'm not really sure how I feel about it. Is a lot of the parts I really there's a lot of parts I really like, but the way they all fit together feels very anthology.
Yeah, and I mean, like, the biggest complaint I would muster for it is that, like, you have this scene where, and obviously spoilers, but, like, he finds his father in the attic, and his father's a giant penis monster.
Yeah.
And it's one of my favorite parts of the entire movie. And then immediately after that, he, like, I don't know, a lot of stuff where it's, like, Beau talking to Mona toward the end, it was just, like, I was so frayed by that point that I was like ready for the next thing immediately. Like it lingers on that stuff for so long. It feels like it's just paced not exceptionally.
Yeah, and like that sequence, especially the one you're talking about, like where he's talking to her post penis reveal, post dick reveal,
Yeah,
um, is especially what feels like the sort of self-referential stuff, is it comes off almost like he's doing a bit about like, hey, remember that really iconic monologue from Hereditary? Oh, when you think about it, it's just my character standing around telling you what their mental health problems are. So what if I do that in my movie and it goes on for like way too long?
yeah,
And then I do an Evangelion reference with Beau choking his mom out.
yeah. Basically, no offense
That's
to Patty LuPone, she's great.
no, she does great. It's just it goes on for like way longer in a way that like feels like the kind of things that people who took the wrong lessons from Hereditary, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can compare that to another film we watched recently, Resurrection. There's like that scene where she does the really long monologue, like that works in the film.
Yeah,
I just didn't feel like the back and forth. I feel like the dialogue itself is good, but the way it's in there doesn't quite work for me.
it's a tough nut to crack because I really feel like I do like BEAU's characterization. Like, he kind of exemplifies this, like, feeling that, you know, anybody who has ever been alive or anybody with anxiety disorder or whatever kind of has, of just, like, helplessness. Like, what do I do now? Who's going to be around to tell me what to do? But then kind of when you actually get him in a room with his mother and, like, the source of all this trauma, there's not really that much, like, back and forth to necessarily have, other than him, like, sussing out that, you know, she's not actually dead or whatever. But it's I don't know. I didn't find that push and pull very, very interesting, as much as I was okay with BEAU as a character.
Yeah, no, like I like BEAU's characterization. I think he does a really good job. I think the reveal, which is very planted throughout the film, and all like 47 things you missed in BEAU is Afraid, that again, redoing the Hereditary riff, everything is basically controlled by his mother.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, basically every person he met in the over the course of the whole film is employed by his mom, and is probably is an actor. One of the ones that I caught early on, because I thought a reveal was going to be that Ari Aster was a character in the film because the guy looked like him. Maybe it was him, but there's, like, a guy in the crowd of the play when he's sitting down, he's, like, turning to someone else, and he's like, what am I doing here? What am I doing in this scene?
Yeah.
And that's why I was like, oh, is that going to be Ari Aster and, like, this person who's been following him around, because I recognize the guy from another scene? Is the reveal going to be that, like, that's Ari Aster himself in the movie? It was just a twist ending thing. One of those things that I'd like want to rewatch it, but, like, as I was watching the film just normally once through, there was a lot of moments I was like, wait, isn't that the guy from, like, another scene? Because they would be, like, standing in a way that, like, drew your attention to them. So I was like, okay, clearly that person's supposed to be noticed, and, like, they look like this other character.
Right.
I know that with Nathan Fielder's character, you can see him on the employee roster directly above Parker Posey's character.
Nathan Lane. Yeah.
Nathan Lane, sorry, not Nathan Fielder. Yeah, no, Nathan Lane's character is just right there above her.
Yeah. I noticed that one. That one was, well, also the, like, there's some fun stuff going on. I don't know. I think that people at large are a little too tired and underpaid to make a more significant ARG, but they did something small where they made, like, the Mona Wasserman Company logo. Like, they made a Instagram, they made a LinkedIn for the Mona Wasserman Company.
That's funny.
Which is pretty good. I kind of want to add them. But I remember seeing the MW at the beginning of the movie and thinking, like, oh yeah, I've seen that production logo before. But I don't actually think I have. It was totally a, like, I've totally seen this animal before situation.
No, Doug, I swear I've seen this animal before. Put that up on the screen right now.
Yeah, that's...
This colossal flyer went extinct 66 million years ago. So
66 million years ago? Bro, I swear I've seen this animal before, though.
One of the best videos of all time. So real.
Just it being... it with the caption of just world's oldest man.
Oh, God.
Yeah, there's so many, especially early on, there's so many good visual gags like that, though, too, of just, like, subtle things. The sign on the sex shop next to his apartment has just, like it just babble. Just, like, yeah, babbling intrusive thoughts, like, sex knife. Like,
yeah.
It's like
knife penis, knife cock.
Knife penis, knife cock.
And then one that says perfectly normal cock.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, can we just take a moment to talk about the production design on this movie? Because it was really, like, I think there was some comic that Ari Aster was saying he was inspired by. Hold on, I think the comic is called 8 Ball. All of the production design elements felt very comic-y to me in terms of just, like, filling the screen and, like, with, like, set design and stuff. Like, the girls' room that Beau is staying in is one of the funniest sets in the entire movie. There's, like, a like K-pop band poster where it's like the band is called Kiss or something, but the SS is 55.
Yeah.
And it's like, we are 55 boys and we love you, or something
and so
like
the poster is just like a Smash Brothers roster of boys. And what's great is that even the way he sets up the camera in those scenes, that is one of the last posters that you see in it.
Yeah.
Because when it's first introduced, there's a lot of like pitch perfect, like fake pop boy band, like
anime drawings,
modern teenage girl, anime drawings, like fake but realistic looking. And then again, not attention. It's not like your eye is drawn to them like the movie is doing the like, hey, look at this joke, but like you're noticing it because you're like, okay, these are cute.
Yeah.
And they get more and more absurd. And then one of the last ones you see is there's like a shot when he's like putting her computer down on her desk where you can just see that one above it. And it's like, that was the one where he's like, I gotta have this one be seen last because this is the like peak of the concept I'm doing taken to its like most absurd level, which is we are 55 boys and we love you.
Yeah. I didn't get a chance to see this in like IMAX or anything like that. I feel like there's probably way more shit like that in that version. I don't know. We'll see.
I love that in his past movies, like all the Easter eggs or stuff planted to kind of like, like, oh, the symbol of the cult is on the telephone pole in Hereditary, stuff like that. And this one, like all the Easter eggs are just like, yeah, did you notice that there's like just a drawing of a dude puking and coming?
Yeah.
That just keeps appearing throughout the film.
There's a drawing of a guy sucking dick on the wall of his apartment. There's lots of dick drawings everywhere. This movie kind of knows what its sense of humor is.
Really excited to look at what all the weird shit in his apartment is.
Yeah.
At some point. Definitely a film I'm excited to like rewatch at some point with friends to just try and catch what our new favorite gags and intrusive thoughts are going to be.
Right.
Oh, I can't believe I almost forgot my actual favorite one. On the news when it's just increasingly showing more and more like horrific like crime stuff, and it's just like the birthday boy slasher, and he's called that because he's naked. There's just like a little like bug, like ad bug kind of thing that pops in, and it's like up next, pregnant and dead. It's like a reality show.
So fucking good. The birthday boy was my favorite character, I gotta be honest.
Birthday boy slasher.
The first half of this movie was so fucking funny. I honestly, I can understand being annoyed by it and thinking that he's like a little, I don't know. Well, okay, I can understand it actually, because like I think a lot of people want Ari Aster to be this kind of cancelable, like, oh my god, he is such a reactionary. Look at the first part of BEAU is Afraid. It's all this like reactionary dog shit. And it's just like, well, no, that's like actually a really good and smart portrayal of like someone whose like perception of the world is like really colored by like what other people say about it. And not, all of this is like very non-literal and not meant to be taken very seriously. Like the fucking guy who's covered in tattoos and it's like, oh, he's so scary or whatever. He's like he's like a vagrant. He's like a guy from the street. But every time you see him, he's like grabbing food that's too hot and throwing it and going, it's too hot!
Yeah.
Like, how do you take that seriously?
I think what's so funny about that is that it's like, it's so Mad Magazine.
Yeah.
That it's like, this isn't like a true reactionary's portrayal of crime in cities because it's not hateful enough.
Yeah.
It's not like presenting this with actual contempt. It's presenting it as like, this is what a reactionary thinks being in the city is like.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so like you're supposed to find it funny in the same way when you get home after being out and being like, oh my god, I almost died. The next morning you're like, what the fuck was I talking about? Those people didn't have anything to do with me.
Yeah. And hey, let's be fair, both sides of them. Very accurate portrayal of an average police interaction.
Yeah, no, that was again, that's like the same thing where it's like the perfect portrayal, just like your anxious thoughts about how trying to get help will go down.
Yeah.
I could see people thinking it's also reactionary because it's like the one billboard. I forget what it is, where it's like, we're like woke news, we're going to take your genitals or something. But again, it's like it's absurd. Like, it's taken to such an absurdity that it's like, how do you not see that, like, the main character of this film is probably, I wouldn't say a little reactionary, but I would say at the heart of a lot of reactionary stuff is anxiety. So it makes sense to make your extremely anxious character view the world through a kind of reactionary lens.
Yeah.
Especially when it turns out that, like, his entire world is fake.
Right.
His entire world is literally a construction, and he doesn't actually know or has possibly ever experienced reality.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's kind of part and parcel with like the continued mission of like Midsummer. Midsummer has a lot of sympathy for the cult member, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And BEAU is Afraid kind of carries this sort of, carries this sort of heart through its carries this sort of themology or whatever you want to fucking call it, where, yeah, like, it's not the real world. It's like, it's paranoid delusion, it's obsession, it's, but you have to kind of feel sorry for him, and you have to kind of feel at least a little bit of empathy for him, because like all of our world, insofar as like the ways that we have to touch and interact with the world around us, let's say like television or TikTok or your Twitter timeline or whatever, like that is all curated in some way by large interests, and there is kind of a vested interest in making you as fucking anxious and horrified as possible all the time,
which makes perfect sense why his mom is like basically a Rupert Murdoch, like, super corporate figure.
Yeah,
like it not even to be like, like the true villain is the oligarchy in this film, but it's a film that it's like, yeah. The film is very like, Ari Aster obviously has an interest and obsession with like systems of control, both on the domestic interpersonal and on the super structural. That is literally what Midsummer is about.
Right.
It doesn't shock me that he would take a lot of this kind of stuff that's in the water with like ways that society and media portrays things to make you anxious and be like, what if your mom did that to you? What if your mom did that to you, but for real?
I don't know. I just thought the dead son thing was really funny.
It's very funny. It's played so hilariously. Also, like, the one downside of the actual reveal of the film is that after he left it, I thought it was going to just never explain what the fuck the mom was talking about.
Right.
Because like, I feel like that would have been like really funny if he gets out of there and it's just like, oh, what was going on? Well, I escaped, so who knows? I'll never know. The fucking napkin that's just like, stop incriminating yourself. And he's like, what is it? What do you mean?
Oh god, yeah, all of that stuff, that was like a real high point of the film. And getting into the weeds a little bit here, there's like there's plenty of kind of takes floating around out there as far as like the gender dynamics of Hereditary, and all that stuff is really, really interesting. The whole like wanting the whole like Payman wanting like a boy but having to inhabit a girl body, and the ways that can be read, and that the family segment in BEAU is Afraid, the way that it feels to me kind of referential toward Hereditary is that it's like, it's still kind of playing in those same like weird sort of gender dynamics, because this like, there's this prioritized boy who is like dead and no one's allowed to go in his room, and then there's this like girl who feels totally like forgotten about, and then she brings in like pink and blue paint and tells BEAU to like paint the walls pink, but then she drowns herself and dies on like the blue paint. It's hard not to like kind of extrapolate that stuff in a funny way, not to any particular end, but it's just like this interesting moment of like, oh, other characters are also going through their own like insane family bullshit, their own insane sort of like they're developing their own neuroses and things like that. and BEAU kind of has to also navigate around them. But it's further funny because, like, this movie still kind of retained the live leak elements of Ari Aster's filmmaking, but it wasn't as gory or as disgusting. I mean, the poisoning was, like, kind of disgusting, but when she starts doing CPR, like, a lot of the people I watched the movie with, like, kind of noted that the body looked really fake when she did that. So it was, like, between that and Elaine's body immediately rigor mortising into, like, a mannequin, it's almost like the people's bodies just get replaced by, like, movie mannequins when they're done for the purposes of, like, what the spider's web that Mona Wasserman is trying to weave. I don't know.
Yeah.
Very self-aware of a movie to, like, turn characters into props like that.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I didn't even think about it in that way, that it's like, because I noted that, like, when she dies and the mom goes to do CPR, especially for somebody who, like, previously has been, like, pretty graphically hyper real, because it's not quite realistic, but, like, hyper realistic with his gore.
Yeah.
It was just, like, really noticeable that it was, like, a fake corpse that she was suddenly replaced with, because, like, they're doing CPR and it looks like rubber.
Yeah.
Like, just the kind of thing that I'm like, oh, that's weird. Like, normally he would, like, that feels like something that normally he would, like, really want her body to look like a dead child's body. Really make it just as disturbing and unsettling as possible. So yeah, no, I think you're right that it's, like, kind of riffing on that and making it so that it's, like, all the violence and all the dead bodies and stuff look fake, because it's kind of like this weird movie magic thing of, like, yeah, we're highlighting that this is all artifice.
Yeah. They're Mona's props, you know, any interiority they have comes kind of second to her goals and her aims. Lots of kind of little artfulness throughout, artful touches. I liked a lot of the kind of, like, flashback shots and, like, kind of the way that some of that stuff was executed. I liked Mona making bird noises. That was really funny.
Oh yeah. God, even just, like, the funeral scene has so many great punchlines. Just here's where the plaque commemorating where the chandelier decapitated her.
That was fucking awesome. The plaque that's like, BEAU Wasserman, this date to blank. Like, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm interested to hear more what you think about it. But, like, for my money, I just don't think it's a movie to be taken quite that seriously. It's not taking itself very seriously, I don't think. And it is very long. It's really, really, really long. But as long as you go to a theater with a comfy chair. I saw it in an uncomfy chair the first time, and saw it in a comfier chair the second time, and liked it a lot better the second time.
I will say, saw it in a comfy chair. And you know what? This is one of the few movies I've watched in a good while where I didn't get up during it.
Right.
I just watched it for 3 hours. Didn't go pee. None.
Yeah. Hold it in.
So that's that. Congrats to the movie for that, keeping me interested.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess ultimately it's like, this is Ari Aster doing, like, a Saturday afternoon comedy. It's just he doesn't know how to do that because he's insane. So it becomes this.
I mean, he kind of does because it's funny, but then it's just it's just a little overlong.
He doesn't know how to do it. He doesn't know how to make it not packed to the gills.
Yeah, really, really dense.
Yeah, it's more that's what he doesn't know how to do, rather than he doesn't know how to make a funny movie. Because, like you said, there's good jokes, good gags.
Yeah,
a lot of good jokes, a lot of good gags.
Yeah,
sometimes, like, multiple ones at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And for what it's worth, if you don't like Ari Aster's kind of taste or his voice, his artistic voice, that's fine. That's totally fine. I would argue that there's more frustrating and annoying things happening in the world of movies. You know, for my money, I don't think he's necessarily. I don't think he's that much of an easy target. The way that people, I don't know, like people get really, really fucking heated about this guy, and it's just like, you guys, I don't know. I saw some bad movies this year. I saw some really bad movies this year. Some of them made several billions and billions of dollars more than Ari Aster movies make.
Yeah, like I'm not, because I'm not trying to be a dick writer. I feel like his films are like, for lack of a way to put it, underappreciated, but that includes by his own fan base.
Sure, yeah.
There are so many times that I've seen extremely annoying takes about Midsummer where people are arguing back and forth on it, but like both sides of it are arguing about like a movie that sounds like a completely different fucking film than what I watched.
Sure, absolutely.
But I think it's just like, yeah, no, it's just the way people like hate on it is very like, people are, I think, using him as a synecdoche, if you will, for everything that they don't like about modern horror. Which I'm gonna have like extreme hot take here. I feel like a lot of the complaints I've reached a point now where a lot of complaints I see about air quotes modern horror stuff is like, okay, well, literally every decade there's like the same complaint. Not the same complaints, but like every decade it's like, oh, horror is bad now.
Yeah.
Horror doesn't get the artistry of horror. Like you had it with the new metal horror phase in the 2000s. You had it with the postmodern slashers of the 90s. You had it with the slashers of the 70s and 80s.
Right.
Like that's just kind of always how it's been, and probably always how it will be. And I think a lot of stuff that people, you know, get like to give themselves points for dunking on are gonna hold up. I think Midsummer and Hereditary hold up. I don't think Babadook will. I think Babadook fucking sucks.
Well, yeah, we've been over that.
Yeah. But I and you don't have to love the movie. I'm not saying you gotta like it anyway. But like, shit isn't as fucking influential as that is without it, you know, ending up being a more important film than you maybe want it to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And name one director who actually, like, you know, fucking stands behind and is super proud of the elevated horror label. Like, who would want their shit to be called that? That's like when people called Aphex Twin intelligent dance music. For a really long time, they called it that. And it's like, what a dumb thing to say. Like, I don't know. It's, you know, it's sometimes a thing can just be a thing.
Like there's plenty of critiques I've read of his stuff where like I like some of it. I like bits. I agree with some of it. I agree with bits of it. I just think that his stuff is I think a lot of people want to read it as just like, oh, it's too obsessed with metaphor, but it's like, okay, but like it's not like the actual subject matter in his films aren't also interesting and compelling.
Yeah, I mean, your mileage may vary on that one, obviously, but for my money, like, he's, you know, 2.5 for 3. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
There's, you know, there's worse directors out there.
There's so many worse directors out there, and they're all getting so much money.
Oh yeah.
Honestly, I think talking it out has kind of helped me realize that really what it comes down to is just that it's like midish.
Sure.
it's like okay. It's
fine.
It's you know, it's better than like other mid films I've seen, but like it's, you know, it's not Ari Aster's best. I'm excited for him to do more.
Yeah. Good for a lark, good for a laugh.
Yeah.
Good for a summer afternoon.
Very funny film.
Funny.
Just dense, but not in a way that's necessarily good.
Yeah, great performances throughout too. I mean,
oh, incredible performances. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thanks for stopping in. I'm definitely gonna be writing you several new prescriptions based off of kind of the information that we've
no, that's fine.
talked
I can
about.
sell them.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's kind of one way to approach. You could think about taking them.
I could. I could think about that.
All right. All right.